Now, this 1.3 is that they had, I think every year you grapple with this issue of internship. And let's see what the auditor. The ministry is mandated to undertake policy review and development in the health sector, interviews with management, and review of documents indicated that although the ministry has an internship committee in place that manages the placement of interns, it does not have a formal policy on internship. The available policy is still in draft form. The absence of a formalized internship policy leads to inconsistencies in the management and implementation of internship program, affecting the overall quality and standardization of the internship experience. And every year there is almost a cry how to pay internships, and from a scheme of things they remain very core to running of medical facilities across the country. And for me, PS a practical part as we tackle this internship. I happen to have a hospital where there are 7 doctors, but they seem to have their own schedule. Internally in the hospital arrangements, if one doctor is available like 2, the rest are off duty. And they leave the core of this work to these interns. It's so common, I don't know whether you agreed on that schedule, but you find they are permanent and pensionable. Supposed to be in the hospital, but they have a schedule. They tell you Dr. Fred Angura will be here on a Friday. Okay? And they say, then when he's in over the weekend, Mwanga will be there. So you will never find on any day all the 7 doctors deployed in a hospital at a place of work. I don't know whether that is across the country, but I know the hospital, you know, my home from Gombo Hospital is very close. And every day I get, the doctor is not around, he will appear on this day. How is that a policy? Sorry, it is not a bit, but it's critical.
Right, the issues that we are talking about are happening in many facilities. And of late, first of all, we have written a circular clearly instructing COW to supervise through his people to make sure that people abide by what the standing orders command us to do, to work 8 hours, and if you're on call, to be available. We have also, in addition, now to instituted regional meetings because we want the region to supervise the facility, the lower facilities, then like in that hierarchy up to down. But one of the things that we are looking at is the attendance to duty. We are insisting that we must have a mechanism of clocking in so that people know when you have come in and when you have left. However, what is also known is that some people in some of those facilities, they don't, either they disable the thing that does the clocking.
The commercial.
So it is really a continuous struggle. And that's why we have really been saying, if we digitalize, because nobody will manipulate a computer. Even now where we have digitalized, because we didn't have the thumbprint, and people would log in with login codes. But you will find still someone gives a login code to a nurse. So then the person logs in as if it is the doctor, so that when you are printing out the attendance, you are able to see someone has attended. Yet actually it is the nurse on the ward who does that. So now we are changing. We are changing that it must be the thumbprint. But all this, it's a culture, it is a real culture that Ministry of Health at the headquarters cannot do this. We just need a concerted effort in the local governments, the policy shift. If, for example, standing orders say if you miss for 2 weeks, you should be, reprimanded, you should be given fair hearing, you should be called to warning and all that, and then it takes like 10 steps to follow. And those 10 steps are the problems actually. Because warning, verbal, maybe 1 year, meanwhile someone is denied service, and all those processes. So we think that there must be a collectively, all of us, collectively deal with this problem. This problem cannot be solved by health alone. Even in local government, even the leader, the supervisors who are there, who are paid to supervise service delivery at sub-county, at health center 3, we need to see everyone really talk about this, and the contract for us, we know that would solve this problem, especially the senior people. It would solve. So we pray really that this momentum will build up and we see something that is translated into a policy shift in the way we do things.
Well, it was an observation from me. Because I'm near a hospital, I know a lot of what happens in hospitals, but I'm a politician. At the end of the day, there are issues there from the way the boards of these hospitals are constituted and the relationship between the DH, district health officer, who sometimes they graduate from health facility, from which is in the locality, so it's part of the community, and is appointed by the district. It's not like a cow. Not so. You cannot transfer this DHO. They are appointed to be localized there and a little bit permanent and pensionable. They are product of the very rotten system. They can't check it. They can't change it. So I've observed that. The other one is the poverty of districts. Those cows sometimes go and get fuel from hospitals. The ones you are sending them to check on them, they say, the head of the hospital is called what? Superintendent. They ring a superintendent for fuel. The RDC rings a superintendent for fuel. The DISO rings an RDC for fuel. So how will they check on these fellows? So as we are saying, the matter is so, and it's affecting service delivery because the manpower is not there. But for another day, I've told you I know the genesis of how you can crack it, but one, you need to reform a bit of the policies. The element of permanent and pensionable. I know you are civil servants, need to be checked. Because everybody says, after all, me, I'm permanent and pensionable. What will you do? If I do this? Anyway, let's go for intern. They are saying you have the committee, you have no policy.
Internship policy was fully discussed by all stakeholders, and Ministry of Education is supposed to take it to Cabinet, and we do believe once that is done, it will be able to sort all these ambiguities that we are still experiencing in the numbers, in qualification, in entry point, or in the universities, and also in facilitation. Because right now, we are producing more numbers than availability of training centers. So, and we don't want to just to take people en masse, and then we graduate people who are mediocres, because we cannot compromise on quality. So we hope that once the policy chair is completed and discussed at cabinet level, it is done, then implementation will start. However, we still have that backlog right now. The more we delay, the more entry, the more universities continue, admitting more numbers, and so this until we have that stopping. But that's what it is, sir. So we have had all our inputs in this policy, and we believe that this policy will sort us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can we proceed to 1.4? Accumulation years. Now, PS, we've just looked at this issue. It's more or less the same, but now it makes it this 3.7 billion. Where was it budgeted for? Honorable colleagues, we're on page 5 of the report.
Can I ask my officer to take us through this section?
They have corrected it. I said what? So you've done from the responses. Where? Okay, you explain. Yes.
Chair, our response, of course, mirrors itself into what has been happening in the country regarding domestic areas. We have had these areas for the last 10 years, and whenever we budget, we can budget when the ceilings are flexible. So by the year under review, we had areas totaling to over 70 billion shillings. And specifically for the NMS and NDA, which is recorded here, these are fees. For NDA, any drug that comes in that has been donated to government, we are charged, and that invoice is passed on to Minister of Health. But for the last 15 years, we have not had any money to settle those fees. Also at NMS, any service that is given to government for donated commodities is charged under Minister of Health, and we have not got any money for that. So what Finance usually advises us is to use the available resource within the budget, and the domestic area should have a first call on the resource. And this is what happened during this financial year. We had issues to do with COVID-19 staff that had served us very well, others lost lives, and we had areas of about 790 million shillings. In addition, we had also that one of Arab contractors who were taking us to court after completing Women Hospital. So Minister of Finance advised us that those two should have the first call on the resource we had in the budget. And we had to pay that amount of money. The only budget that we had for domestic areas that was released was only 228. So basically that's the background, and as our SC was demonstrating, we shall need time to revise the statement of accounts to reflect those budget provisions.
Okay, since the details we are going to harmonize, we can proceed.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Silas Augon. I don't know whether it's not proper that we initiate some action in terms of like making these particular supplies exempt. Because why should we be laboring all the time, government to government, And we are talking about a donation to Ministry of Health. And that is for the people of Uganda. Don't you think it is a high time that the ministry initiates something so that we start putting this under exempt in the tax brackets? Maybe that will save the situation. Otherwise, we'll be piling up figures which in the balance sheet, in the statement of financial position and whatever, will look very, very bad. Thank you.
I think we shall have a discussion about that in our internal meeting, whether it's something you can put in our report. Madam, we only go to 5 points. Yes, this thing here, 1.5. The auditor says you got money worth 17.13 billion, which you transferred it to emergency. But under the agreement, I think there are mandatory visits that you ought to have done. He says there is no evidence of you appointing an evaluation committee, which you are supposed to establish within 2 months from signing of the agreement, and says lack of this audit base and the absence of evaluation committee hinders the ability to verify expenditures related to governmental contribution. This non-compliance with the monetary and evaluation procedures raise concerns about the oversight and accountability of funds, potentially leading to misuse or inefficiency in fund utilization. And he routes it back to you to say you did not play your part when it mattered the most.
Chair, the audit observation is noted regarding monitoring and evaluation of operations under emergency hospital. Top management has been really undertaking periodic visits to do support supervision, and every quarter the hospital submits the performance reports and accountability, which are always periodically reviewed by our internal auditor. But we take note that the particular committee of M&E was not established as M&E specifically, and moving forward we will establish it and we'll give it clear terms of reference. Thank you.
You know, the auditor is using very big words. He says he sees concerns about the oversight and accountability of funds potential. You know, he thinks he's not satisfied, much as he was also funny. Anyway, we proceed. 2.1, as part of reforms to make public procurement system more efficient and accountable, the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Authority, PPDA, developed an electronic government procurement system, the EGP system. This was rolled out to a number of government entities, including yours. E-government procurement system is a web-based system that covers the full procurement life cycle, all procurement modalities, and keeps a record and audit trail for all procurement activities. The system comprises a review of, we'll go for the review of the e-system. Despite the ministry's enrollment and utilization of the e-system from May 22 to execute procurement, an analysis of the procurement record indicated non-usage of this system for some procurement. The ministry undertook 309 and 91 procurement during the financial year 2023 worth 31.48 billion. Despite high utilization of the e-system, there was partial non-adaptation with 4 procurement worth 600 conducted outside the system. Additionally, a significant number of procurements initiated through the e-system were either incomplete, cancelled, or did not receive bidder responses. And puts an analysis there in the table of analysis. 70 worth of this were completed. 150 procurement worth 4 billion were initiated with no replies from bidders since the procurement did not proceed to the final stage. 8 procurements were cancelled by the user department before completion. 150 procurement worth 10 billion were incomplete and were at different stages of procurement cycle as the bid notes, creating bids, bid opening, solicitation process, and it goes on to give you a table to speak to it.
Chair, I would request that the person in charge of procurement takes us through this section.
But before you're done with this e-GP system in other ministries, is it working?
It is work at the time when in the year under review, that was actually when we started using it. We were piloting it, but a number of modules were not functional. Even now, right now, there are some modules that we cannot functionalize, but the development is continuous. We keep on giving feedback, and then they keep on improving on it. For example, right now we can't upload a full contract. It can't work. So the feedback, they keep on picking the feedback, and I think that is the reason partly it was not fully utilized as we had given our response.
Because what we are getting from government, other departments, it may not be fit for purpose in the scheme of things. It could have been, is it the one who are evaluating with the finance and they look like they are vacating it to procure another one?
Yes.
We seem to have lost money on this system.
Yes.
We've been listening to various agencies, and the report of the Auditor General in finance, when we queried, they were speaking to as if they are going to procure, and we're investigating it anyway.
The digital procurement is the way to go, and really because of the advancement of digitalization and connectivity and technology advancement, the digital way is the best, and it is efficient. But what we are going through right now with the system, we believe that this is the way to go, and we welcome this system. But it has to be tailored feedback on the system, then that the system has to continue being improved, because there are some modules that could not, and it was hanging. I think if different entities logged on at a go, it would hang. Then you'd not do anything, and then you come another time, then like that. But we believe with time, since we are still in under pilot, with time this system, if instead of just throwing it away and then start getting another one, because that is now there's no value for money. I believe our comments, what we have given them, the feedback we have given to finance, if those components or the modules or the functionality of those modules are really revamped, I think the system would work well. And for us as Ministry of Health, we have no problem. We welcomed it and we are using it. It's just that some of those areas where we could not implement, those are the things that have been raised.
But
the Ministry of Finance is fully aware of our comments. Let's
interrogate this table and get to see the magnitude. Auditor General yatunulidde mu lukangaga lwe bayisa nga baali bagamba nti mu myaka 5 bajja kuzimba amalwaliro ku buli gombolola agawera ddala 138 naye Auditor General yagenze okutunulako nga plan eyo y'emyaka 5 esigaddeko myezi nga basobodde okuzimba amalwaliro 46 gokka naye ng'ekisinga okweraliikiriza nti agasigadde tegakyayogerwa nako baba baleeta embalirira zaabwe mu budget okusaba ssente n'olwekyo tezaakoma kufikka n'okwerabirwa zeerabirwa. Kati tubasanze era nga balina n'amaato ge baagula naye nga amafuta ge basobola okussa abantu okufuna obudduukirize bwe bayita ambulance nga nabwo tebabusobola. Ambulance baali beekobaana okulaba nga we tulituukira wano bayina ambulance 353 bayinako ambulance 181 endala 171 teziyina constituencies ez'enjawulo. Tebayina police yonna. Akakiiko kano manye ministry eno erabika nti bano abaana bamaze okusoma abagenda okukola mu malwaliro babeeramu batya, babasasulwa batya, babawangaaza atya, ate nga bano abaana ababa bagenza okusoma be bayita aba intern be bayimirizaawo amalwaliro gano, kubanga tukizudde ti bano ba staff aba bulijjo bw'osanga baddokita 7 oba 8 mu ddwaliro bo beekolerawo enteekateeka yaabwe buli omu ayinza okuba abeerawo olunaku lumu mu wiiki. Kati bano ba intern be bayimirizaawo amalwaliro naye tebalina nteekateeka yonna gye bayita strategic plan. Banaasobola batya okubeezangawo ba intern be bajja kukola internship, basulawo babeerawo batya, tubasasule tutya, n'olwekyo byakigwirawo kyova buli mwaka bamala kwekalakaasa okufunayo akantu. Sibamaze ezo za ambulances zino emergency ambulances type B at constituency level nga ziri ku constituency balina okubeera na ambulance 353 balinako 181 172 tebaziyina. Balina okubeera ne national and regional level balina okubeera na ambulance 52 balina 4. Balina okubeera n'amaato eza ambulance 20 balina 18 naye tebalina mafuta gaazo. Mu malwaliro agali specialized katugambe ekintu kikubye bazita specialized ambulances ezandibadde nga zijjanga buli kimu ekisobola okuwanirira obulamu mu ekiri. Balina okubeera ne ambulances 66 balinako 35. Balina ez'ennyonyi Euromedical ambulance nga bw'oba ofunye obuzibu nga weetaaga helicopter oba nnyonyi okutwala bataase obulamu balina okubeera n'ennyonyi ezo ez'ambulance 5 tebalinaako wadde emu. Balina okubeera nebita medical command medical command naye ebeera nga type of ambulance 20 balinako 6 gokka. Sente ate bo balina kuba bazzaayo ne $1.7. Tubasanze era nga basasula sente awo za kimpatiira ne tubabuuza n'ebye baakola nga sente zaabwe okukola emirimu tebazikola naye sente zasansaana ziwerera ddala akawumbi kamu ne $1 million. Yes, but yes, mu bitundu nga Lubaga Wakiso okuva 2021 balina okukolamu regional referral hospitals tebakolangayo n'emu. Ekigendererwamu kati ekitundu nga Wakiso kiina eddwaliro liri Ntebe ate nalyo bakalya upgradinga okuva ku health center 4 okufuuka referral now. Naye kakati omuntu ali ali Kasubi, Kasubi eri mu Kampala, omuntu ali Kachiri, Kachiri kumpi ne Wakiso. Naye imagine omuntu ali Ensangi bw'atinatina asanga eddwaliro lya gavumenti eriri Entebe. Omuntu ali ebulwanyi wali kusibira lugenda Emityana va ku lw'Emityana ogende ng'eddwaliro lyo liri ddawa Ntebe. So ogenda okulaba nga olwa population eyo balina okuzimba amalwaliro mu Ntebe kuba Ntebe kati yesinza abantu abangi. Maimini Wakiso tosobola kubanga olinamu akalwaliro kamu tebagizimba. Lubaga bali kubanga Lubaga division yonna gy'olaba terinamu ddwaliro lya gavumenti, agalimu ga church, ga basiraamu, ga bakatuliki ate ga ssente. Kati omuwejjere talinamu ddwaliro mu Lubaga division ku bantu abo abagenda. Ye Makindi eyina Kiruddu, Nakawa balina Naggulu. So Lubaga yali yafika nga balina ogifunira eddwaliro naye byasigala ku mpapula. Ab'e Butambala balina nze.